bum, bum. Oh, well, there it goes. It says that we are live. So we are live. How are y'all doing on Thursday? I tell you what, living in this reality jumping can get a little weird. You know, it's Thursday already, and it seems like it was just last week we were here. Anyway, how y'all doing? Gary Baxter, how are you doing? Susie Q, hello. Thank you. Hey, Big Al, how are you doing? How's the roads there, buddy? Coming to you, by the way, from the state of Colorado, the lockdown state. Our state is locked down. It was weird last night to get the messages coming across our phone. Emergency alert system. Yeah, strange. So how are y'all? Joe Sapiens, good to see you. David Castle, Lori, hello. David Barry from on the other side of the pond. How are you, sir? Alien Believers, hello. Good to see you. Peace. Bree, hello. Michelle, good to see you. So yeah, really, really weird. And then they made a mistake on the time. So this morning we get another one. And they are pulling people over. It's interesting. So yeah, very still. Hello, Lost in Space. Joyce, are you serious? Good to see you. And Twisted Isby, peace. Red Roof Ranch One, hello, how are you? I see you. Scotty Boy, Melissa, and man, Divine Empress, hello. Tony, good to see you, buddy. And Majestica, good to see you. Hello. So Merritt, good to see you. Freedom Grower, hello. Hey, Kent Cook, how are you doing? You have a curfew, Wayne. Yeah, 24-hour curfew, apparently. Weird, you know. What can you say? Yeah, I contend, and it's just me, that if you are really in tune, nothing happens. We talked about this on Monday. Nothing happens unless it is first thought. And we are the manifesting machines. We manifested this. The question is, I'm still asking, who's the son of a bitch behind it? I want to know. Brilliant idea. And before we came on, you know, I wear this shirt periodically. That's what that is about. It occurred to me, where did we see this play out before? So what, there's 88. Hey, there's a good number. I love that number. Of us here, others are piling. Well, there's 101. You see if we can hit 111, and we know we're on a roll then. So everybody, let's get our thinking caps on. We're going to play Trivial Pursuit. Remember the game? So I can't see you, Wayne. Well, I'm here. It says I'm here. Can I have the rest of y'all? Let's see. So what movie did we hear about this? What movie did they do this very similar thing that we're experiencing? Who knows that? 111. There we go. Folks, I know the spirits are with us. We are at the right place. Interesting. I love that. Two very powerful numbers, 88 and 111. There we go. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Remember, how did they get the, Devil Top Mountain? How did they get that to be isolated? What did they use there? Chemical warfare, bio warfare. Yeah. I don't know. Seems a little surreal to me, but I'm going, well, how brilliant of an idea. You lock down the entire world by a contagion. I don't know. Dar says, I don't watch much. Well, this one came out in the 80s. You didn't ever see Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Well, you ought to. You ought to. w- go out and have a mind journey. Lady Ella Darden, hello. Haven't seen you here before. Good to see you. So anyway, somebody is manifesting this, and I don't know. That's why I invoke favor upon us every day. Someone wrote me and said, "In what name do you invoke such favor?" I said, "In my name." Yes, my name. And so I just invoke great favor upon us all, and that may we all have the peace that surpasses all understanding. Marguerite, how are you doing? Um Yeah, I don't know. You know, folks, after a while, when you've been here a while, I'm not a skeptic. I just don't hook up my wagon to any bunch of horses. Something's going on. What, I don't know. I have my opinions. I can't express them here. And speaking of that, tonight on artistfirst.com, link provided below, um, check me out on the Steiger perspective. 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Mountain Time. Tonight, I'm going to be doing Night World, and I'll leave it at that. Tune in. It will be an experience. But having said that, here's the thing. Something's going on. I mean, you can feel it. Everybody feels it. A lot of people are feeling a lot more than normal, but yet it's true. And we're all going through this. And if your state or part of the world isn't, consider yourself, fortunate. But remember our friend Michelle from South Africa. Whoa. I mean, come on, folks, get a grip. We're all humans. That's this thing about this contagion, real, contrived, whatever. Um, we're all humans, and it's affecting us on a species basis. And I don't know, there is an enlightenment today that there wasn't in World War II. Um, but the Enlightenment circle has been around for a very long time. Obviously, World War II had a great impact on the world, on our species, our collective consciousness, our psyche. Some could say that that was a new era, a new reality. I love the graphic on the title for the show today, because I believe we're actually going through doors of reality. If in fact we are close to something, someone says close to what? Something out in space, or something in inner space. But no doubt something's happening, and I think it's going to alter us. I think it's going to alter our reality. I know at least our collective consciousness. And who knows what we'll be able to manifest next. I hope, the one thing, we're a group here, and we've really become a tribe. Um, and I can't help but not think that we've seen these type of disasters before. It affects our species. Um, Many of our ancestors and ancient cultures, civilizations were taken out because of viruses. I mean, it's an enemy. Our bodies, are amazing because we have so much in us. Let's see. Um, and I just wonder what we could do if we could get the world leaders. Something happens to them. I swear there's a invasion of the body snatchers. You get elected to office, you're asleep one night, and all of a sudden you hear this woo, and next thing you know, you got a pod next to you. I swear, because these politicians, you go, you can't be human, man. But anyway, I digress. Um, if we could get them to be enlightened, you know, Marianne Williams, I think, was probably one that I think she broke the ice. Many of you may not remember her, but she was a Democratic presidential candidate. And Marianne is very much awake. She is. And it's quite remarkable. So maybe we can do something. Maybe we can actually affect some change. We're going through these realities. We're going through something, whether it's a time distortion, whether it's waves coming in that affect the space-time continuum. Listen, quantum physics, our physical laws prove that there can be disruptions to the space-time continuum. And when that happens, it affects us as a species, because typically they're always associated with some sort of increased electromagnetic energy, many times plasma, and we're light beings. What is the essence of the spirit? I would say that if the essence of the spirit in the ethereal realms would be probably close to plasma or something close to it. That's just my opinion. I don't know what yours is, but we're going through something and we're all going through it. I marvel to see our resilience. I mean, we meet here each day. It's a small, intimate group. Love it, and we have a chance to basically share energy. I'm going to start it, I think, and Brian did a really, he kind of showed this, that we'll start doing, I think, on a one day a week, or maybe we'll actually open up the phone lines and let people come in and talk. But because we need, someone said blood plasma. Bingo. Danny, how's that little one in you? You's a smart lady. Blood plasma. Think about that. Yeah. And what is plasma used for? Well, it'll keep you alive. If you have my type of blood, they like my blood because everybody can have my blood. You can't have my blood, but you know what I'm saying. Uh, so, but yeah, very interesting. Jay Blaze, good. Um, you know, we can't do any of that now. You can't donate blood now. It's like lockdown. Papers, please, in which there are. Yes, you have to have papers. My wife is what they call a essential personnel. You have to have your license printed, not your driver's license. This is in her case, her medical license. And you have to have that ready in case you're pulled over by law enforcement. United Airlines is doing the same thing for their employees. So, yeah, something going on. It's interesting. I look at this as a fact that spatial reality, when your perception gets altered, whether you take DMT, whether you've ever taken LSD, any type of hallucinogenic, um, you know what I'm talking about. The effects on your consciousness is that you enter different planes of reality, and you're truly blending many different realities into one. And some people really like it, like myself. To me, it was really far out. Others get a little freaked out. And when we see it manifest on a global scale, I contend, and it's just my opinion, that those of us who are versed in that type of consciousness, this is not a big deal for us. I mean, it really isn't. You see people get all wrapped around the axle, getting tied in knots. And there's a percentage of us who go, really? I have favor on my life. Favor manifests. How about Kaz yesterday? I mean, she's just fabulous. I mean, I love her energy, and she's part of this community. Hello, Karen, King of Quartz, good to see you. And Lori, good to see you. But in any case, when you can get that balance inside your consciousness, this is, to me, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, listen, dying is part of the process. I don't like what's happening, but for me, it's all right, fine. You know, what's that song? Only the strong survive. They've actually proven that there is a lot to that. But anyway, so getting back to the original point, and we'll get into our reading. Um, you know, I say that we can manifest a whole different reality. I mean, if the waves are here and the energy is going on, and it is, I think this is a great time. We're all at home. Great majority of us are. Man, I'll tell you, if we could just get diligent on this, and I know many of us are, but you like to bring in more. Let's see, technocrat wizardry, soon to be human will to be the thing of the past, 5G. Don't know. I do know this, that what I think I manifest, I have favor in my life. Favor manifest all the time. And I don't even ask for it. And many of you, I've got the emails, I save them, that testify to the same thing. In a time of where there is crisis, we sit here going, hey, far out. uh, and, I have people write me all the time, and, I edify them. That's what we're supposed to do. Edify means to build up. And that's what we're supposed to do. There's enough channels out there that can drive you batshit crazy. I mean, I tell people all the time, weigh everything out. There's a lot of crazy conspiracies going on. And who knows? I mean, really, who knows? Um, I don't even think the ones who think they know really do know. It's just my opinion. But who knows? But I know this, I'm not afraid of the future. It There's nothing to be afraid of. And, we bought the ticket, so enjoy the ride and use common sense, you know, use intuition. I don't know about you, but I've heard this from a number of people I've talked to recently. People's intuition is growing stronger. It's becoming more vivid, much more diverse in what intuition does for us. Intuition, as I always say, is our future voice trying to tell us, hey, hey. And I think many of us are really beginning to get into that. So, real quick, watching a video, I schedule things, but I'm really seeing one that I found very, very interesting. So look at your palm, and here you see mine. Now, what do you see in my palm? And we all have these. We're all marked. You see the chevron. And in many, you actually have the number 7. But we all have the chevron. It is said that we have all been marked as a marker. When you mark someone, it's a marker. What do you use a marker for? A marker represents a transaction. Typically, it is used in a debt transference. And so all of us carry the mark. Look at your own hand. All of us carry the chevron. Why? Tell me. Want to explain that one? It's in us all. And the thing of it is, we're all marked with them on both hands, our palms. What do you worship? Most people that are into religion, what do you worship their God with? How do you approach their, in their religions? You approach God with your palms forward, always lifting your palms up. Palm Sunday. It's all about recognizing and acknowledging the mark that apparently all of us have been used as a debt. Each of us carry the mark of the debt. So I'm not even seeing the chat room going through anymore. Am I still live? That's odd, you know. So the last one I saw was there is, it doesn't surprise me with the bandwidth. That is odd. There shouldn't be that away. Well, all right. So it still says I'm live. So I am assuming that we're live unless everyone stopped talking. Did all of y'all stop talking at the same time? Did the palm thing really get you? Julianne Payne says she's in the garden, and that's the last I saw of anyone. Cool. All right. All right, so let's get into our reading. I tell you, we're almost finished with the first book. It's really gone by quick. I can only assume that the chat is just malfunctioning. I don't know. But in any case, let's get on with this. So we're at chapter 21. It says, before noon of the next day, all of the parties had arrived. We spent the afternoon in comparing notes, and these notes checked to the letter. That evening, after we had finished with our notes, we were invited to go directly to the lodge for dinner. When we arrived, we found 300 people, men, women, and children, assembled and seated at long banquet tables. They had reserved places for us at each one at the end of the tables so we could look down the whole length of the room. The tables were all covered with beautiful white linen and set with china and silver plate as for a real banquet. Yet there was but one dim light burning in the hall. After we had been seated for perhaps 20 minutes, there was a deep stillness. In a moment, a pale light flooded the room. The light grew stronger and stronger until all the room was aglow, and everything in the room sparkled as if thousands of incandescent lamps had been cunningly hidden and turned on gradually until all were fully lighted. We were to learn afterwards that there was no electric lights in the village. After the light came on, the stillness lasted for about 15 minutes. Then, of a sudden, a mist seemed to gather, and there was the same gentle swish, like the sound of wings, that we had heard the evening before when Emil's mother appeared before us. The mist cleared, and standing in the room at different points were Emil's mother and 11 others, 9 men and 3 women. Words fail to describe the radiant beauty of that scene. When I say that although they had no wings, they appeared like a troop of angels, I'm not exaggerating. They stood for an instant as if transfixed. All bowed their heads and waited. In a moment, there came music from unseen voices. I had heard of heavenly voices, but I had never experienced them until that night. We are fairly lifted from our seats. Towards the close, those that had appeared walked to their seats, and we again noticed that though they made no effort to walk quietly, their feet did not make the slightest noise. And little caveat here, I actually have been in meetings where there was a choir of voices not coming from In fact, the whole congregation was quiet, and we heard what I would just describe as a chorus of angels, angelic beings. I have seen these beings before, but that one was quite striking, and it was something that I have never heard before. And don't know. Pretty sure I'll hear it again on the other side. But anyway, I digress. Words fail to describe the radiant beauty of that scene. Oh, excuse me. I think we already got there. Yes. When the 12 were seated in their respective places, the same mist appeared again. And when it cleared, there stood 12 more. This time there were 11 men and 1 woman, and among these was our friend of the records. As they stood here for a moment, another song burst forth. When the song was nearly ended, the 12 walked to their respective places without the slightest noise. They were no sooner seated than the haze again filled the room. When it had cleared, there were 13 standing. This time across the far end of the hall, 6 men and 7 women, 3 men and 3 women on each side of the woman in the center. The center one appeared to be a beautiful girl in her teens. We had thought every woman that appeared was very beautiful, but this one surpassed them all. They stood with bowed heads for a moment, and the music again burst forth. This music floated out of a moment, then the choir of voices began. We arose to our feet. As the tones rolled in, it seemed as though we could see thousands of mystical forms moving about the singing as with one voice, and through it all there was not one sad refrain, not one minor key. All was a joyous, free burst of music that came from the soul and touched the soul, lifting it up and up until we felt as if we were losing all contact with earth. As the singing ceased, the 13 walked to their respective places and were seated. Our eyes were fairly glued on the central figure as she advanced towards our table, with a lady on either side. She was seated at the head of our table. As she sat down, the places were quickly stacked at her left hand. The lights grew dim for a moment, and around each one of the 37 there was that same light that so puzzled us, and the most beautiful circle of light just above the head of our honored guest. We were the only ones in that assembly that were greatly moved. Those assembled with us seemed to take it as a matter of course. After all were seated, the silence was maintained for a time. Then every voice in the room burst forth in a glad, free chant, led by 37 that had appeared. When this was finished, the lady at the head of our table arose and held out her hands. On them appeared a small loaf of bread about 2 inches square and about 14 inches long. Then each one of the 36 arose, came forward, and received a similar loaf from her hands. They passed around to all the tables and gave to each one portion of the bread. Our Lady passed around and gave each person a portion of her loaf. As she handed each of us our portion, she said, "Know ye not that Christ dwells within you and in all? Know ye not that your body is pure, perfect, young, ever beautiful, divine? Know ye not that God created you an exact image and likeness of himself and gave you dominion over all things? You of yourself are always Christ the perfect Son of God, the only begotten Son of God, in whom the Father, Mother is well pleased. Now, isn't that interesting? I have been saying previous to these, someone wrote me and said, you keep saying Father, Mother. Well, yeah. And here it is. In whom Father, Mother is well pleased. Son is equal to daughter, as daughter is equal to son. You are pure, perfect, holy, divine, one with God, all good, and each and every child has a right to claim this sonship, this divinity. When all had been given a portion, she returned to her seat, and the loaf was the same length and size as it was when she broke the first portion from it. After this ceremony was over, the edibles began to arrive. They came in large covered containers. These containers just appeared on the table before the lady as if they were placed there by unseen hands. She lifted the lids, set them aside, and began serving. Let he who wants to be first be last, right? As served, the plates were passed. First, one to the lady on her right, then one to the lady on the left, and they in turn passed them on until all were served generously. The meal had not progressed far when our chief asked the lady what she considered the greatest attribute of God. Without a moment's hesitation, she answered, love. Then she went on to say, the tree of life is located in the midst of the paradise of God, the very depth of our own soul, and the rich, abundant fruit that grows and ripens to the fullest perfection. The most perfect and life-giving is love. Love has been defined by those who perceive its true character as the greatest thing in the world. I might add that it is the greatest thing in the world. I might add that it is the greatest healing force in the world. Love never fails to meet every demand of the human heart. The divine principle of love may be used to eliminate every sorrow, every infirmity, every harsh condition, and every lack that harasses humanity. With the right understanding and use of the subtle and illimitable influence of love, the world may be healed of its wounds, and the sweet mantle of its heavenly compassion may cover all in harmony, all ignorance, and all mistakes of mankind. With wings outstretched, love searches out the arid spots of the human heart, the waste places of life, and with seeming magic, touch redeems humanity and transforms the world. Love is God, eternal, limitless, changeless, going beyond all visions into infinitude. The end we can only envision. Love fulfills the law of its own, consummates its perfect work, and reveals the Christ within the soul of man. Love is ever seeking an inlet whereby it may flow forth into the soul of man and pour itself out as of all good to him. If it is not disturbed by man's perversity and discordant thinking, God's eternal, changeless current of love flows ever onward, carrying before it in the great universal sea of forgetfulness every appearance of inharmony or ugliness which disturbs the peace of man. Love is the perfect fruit of the Spirit. It goes forth, binding up the wounds of humanity, drawing nations into closer harmony, and bringing peace and prosperity to the world. It is the very pulse of the world, the heartbeat of the universe. Humanity must be charged with this current of love from the great omnipresent life if it would do the work of Jesus. Does life press heavily upon you? Do you need courage and strength to meet the problems that confront you? Are you sick or afraid? If so, lift your heart and pray to him who leads the way. The imperishable love of God enfolds you. You need not fear. Did he not say, before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear? Approach this throne of grace boldly, not as you have thought of beseeching and groveling attitude, but with the prayer of understanding faith, knowing that the help you stand in need of is already yours. Never doubt. Do more. Ask. Claim your birthright as the child of the living God, as Jesus did. Know that the invisible, universal substance in which we all live and move and have our being is every good and perfect thing that man can desire, waiting to be drawn forth by faith into visible form or manifestation. Read your own great book. What Paul says of love in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, using the word love instead of charity as was intended. I have that plaque right up here. It's one of the reasons I left organized Christianity. If you read 1 Corinthians chapter 13, 4 through 8, you'll find out what the true creator is. Not a judgmental, not sending people to hell, not condemning. No, no, no. Love can never do that. Love doesn't have the capacity for judgment, for any harm. Again, what did Email tell these men? Why do you worship such an angry God? Consider Solomon. When in the night of his experience, he allowed his radiant love, nature, to expand to that universal plane of consciousness where he asked to be of service and not for self. This brought to him wealth untold and added to his life an honor beyond his power to ask. He recognized the wisdom of love, and love released its boundless wealth upon him. Silver was counted as nothing in the days of Solomon. Even the drinking vessels of this mighty king of love were of pure gold. They actually paved the streets, if you believe the legend. Silver became as dross. It wasn't of any value. It is said as well that 1/5 of the gold's reserves today was of Solomon's time. I'm really digging this. To love is to release God's unlimited storehouse of golden treasure. If we love, we cannot help giving, and to give is to gain, and the law of love is fulfilled. Then by giving, we set in operation the unfailing law of measure for measure. With no thought of receiving, it is impossible to avoid receiving. For the abundance that you have given is returned to you in fulfillment of the law. Give, and it shall be given unto you. What is it? Good measure, pressed down, shaking together, and running over, men shall give unto your bosom. For with the same measure that you meet withal, it shall be measured to you again. And by the way, the bosom, to let you know, back in the day, men wore robes, and how they did this is that you would lift up your robe and you would hold it here, and whatever was filled into what your robe could hold, that was your bosom. How about that? So if you think about it, good measure. Now, a measure is like we use in the standard system, like a bushel. So you have a bushel for a standard of measurement. Pressed down, obviously, if you use a press, It's going to compact it, shaken together. Why? Because then that compacts it even more. And then you're running over. Men shall give into your bosom. I know this. See, for me, this is not a leap. I know this works. The poorest person in our group can become a millionaire within a virtually no time at all. It's true. You can get into a state of consciousness of giving, where giving is the only thing you do, where you'll never have to worry about a thing for the rest of your existence. These acts of kindness, these acts of giving are stored where neither thief nor moth nor rust. These are principles that are not Christian principles. The Christians stole them. These are principles that have existed since man first appeared here. These are laws. They will work. They cannot help but not work. If we work in the spirit of love, we must have God present in consciousness. To be one with life, love, and wisdom is to consciously contact. To consciously contact God is to have abundance pressed upon us, the same as abundance of food has been pressed upon us tonight. You see, there is an abundance for all, and none need want in the presence of God's abundance. This thought of abundance must lift the mind far beyond the bounds of limitation. To conceive abundance, one must relinquish all thoughts of things in particular. This concept is so large that it will not permit the thought of detail. To hold it in mind, consciousness must swing far out into the universal and reveal in the joyousness of perfect freedom. This freedom must, however, not be taken for license, for we are held responsible for every thought, every act. Our consciousness cannot attain to this freedom in an instant. The breaking of the last vestige of limitation may be accomplished in an instant, but the preparation for the glorious event has gone before. The preparation in minutest detail has been accomplished from within, just as every petal of a flower is perfected in every detail within the bud. When the perfection is complete, the bud bursts forth, its sepal shell, and the flower comes forth beautifully. So, just so man must break the shell of self before he can come forth. God's laws are changeless, the same as they have ever been. While they are immutable, they are beneficent, for they are good. When we live in conformity to them, they become the very foundation stones on which we build our health, our happiness, our peace, and poise, our success and attainment. If we abide fully in God's law, no evil can befall us. We do not need to be healed. We are ever wit whole. How well we realize that in the great heart of humanity, there is a deep homesickness, which never can be satisfied with anything less than a clear consciousness or understanding of God, our Father, Mother. We recognize this hunger as heart's cry after God. There is nothing the human soul so longs for as to know God, whom to know aright is life eternal. We see people ever shifting from one thing to another, hoping they will find satisfaction or rest in some accomplishment or in the possession of some limited mortal desire. We see them pursuing and gaining these things only to find themselves still unsatisfied. Some fancy they want houses and lands, some great wealth, and some great learning. We are privileged to know that man has all these things within himself. Jesus, the great master, attempted to have all see this. How do we love him? He stands out so beautifully triumphant because of his attainments. We love all who have reached the highest or high places in consciousness that Jesus has. We not only love them for their attainments, but because of what they really are. Jesus never allowed himself to dwell in the external after his illumination. He always kept his thoughts at the central part of his being, which is Christ. In Jesus, the Christ or central spark, which is God in us all, living in everyone today, was drawn forth to show itself perfectly ruling the material body or flesh man. It is in this way that he did all his mighty works, not because he was in some way different from you. He had no great power than all of us have here today. He was not in some way a son of God and we only are servants of God. No, he did these works because of the same divine spark, which the Father has implanted in every child born, was fanned into a brighter flame by his own efforts in holding himself in conscious communion with God himself, the source of all life, love, and power. Jesus was a man the same as all men are today. He suffered, was tempted, and tried, just as you suffer because of temptation and trials. We know that during his residence on earth in the visible body, Jesus spent hours of every day alone with God. And we know that in his early manhood, he went through just what we have gone through and what you are going through today. We know that every man must overcome the mortal, the fleshly desires and doubts and fears until he becomes to the perfect consciousness or recognition of the indwelling presence. This Father in me, to whom Jesus ascribed the credit of all his mighty works, he had to learn as we had to learn and as you are learning today. He was obliged to try over and over again as you are trying. He was obliged to hold fast as you are obliged to hold fast today, even with clenched fists, set teeth, and saying, I will succeed. I do know the Christ lives in me, within me. We recognize that it was the Christ within which made Jesus what he was and is today, and was the same attainments for all of us. In all this, we would in no way detract from Jesus, for we love him with a love unspeakable. We know he went through the perfect crucifixion of self, that he might lead his people to God, that he might show them the way out of sin, sickness, and trouble, that he might manifest the Father in them, and that he might teach that all the same Father lives in all and loves all. None that follow Jesus' life and teaching closely can help but love him. He is our perfect elder brother. Now, I think it's real interesting here is that many people think of this physical crucifixion. That's a story, folks. Anyway, but it has to be brought out here. It's crucifixion to the self. All of us have what I call burrs, and we pick them up as we go through life. And when you try to pick a burr out, particularly if it's in your clothing, it can become very difficult. And I thought it's very interesting how they put this out here. We may not even have time enough to get this finished, but any case, and I think it's interesting as well. They don't worship him. He's their brother, their elder brother. This is busting some paradigms, and the wording is so intermixed, but I love how the meaning comes out. But if we sell our birthright, if we disregard or treat with contempt the beneficent laws of God, and by so doing turn our backs on the Father's house and wander into a far country, as did the prodigal son, of what avail is the peace and plenty, the abundance of warmth and cheer that abides within the house? When you are tired of the husk of life, when you are weary and homesick, With faltering steps, you may retrace your way home to the Father's house. This may be done over the road of bitter experience or by a joyful letting go of all material things. It does not matter how the understanding and knowledge is gained. You will eventually press on towards the mark of your high calling. With each step, you will grow stronger and bolder until you will no longer falter, nor hesitate. You will look within you for your illumination. Then, in your awakened consciousness, you will realize that home is here. It is the divine omnipresence in which we all live, move, and have our being. We breathe it with every breath. We live it with every heartbeat. Do not think you must come to us. Go into your own home, church, your house of prayer, alone, anywhere you choose. Jesus, the great love master, can help you. All those that have passed and are receiving the highest teachings can help you and are endeavoring to help you where you are now and at all times. How plainly we see Jesus and all the others always ready to help those who call. You need but make the call, and they answer before the call is even finished. They stand and walk beside you every moment. What you must do is to raise your consciousness so that you can see and know that you walk beside them. Then you will not falter. They are holding out their hands and saying, "Come unto me, and I will give you rest." This does not mean come after death. This means come now, just as you are. Raise your consciousness to our conscious, and behold, you stand where you are tonight, above all mortal limitations, abundantly free. Peace, health, love, joy, and prosperity are here. These are the fruits of the Spirit, the gifts of God. If we look into God, no harm can befall us, no evil can come near us. If we look to him wholly, we are healed of our infirmities. In the transcendent name of the law, or Jesus. God is in the midst of you, child of infinite, immortal spirit. There is nothing to make you tremble or despair, nothing to make you fear. From the bosom of the Father you came. The breath of the Almighty God created you a living soul. Before Abraham was, you were. Beloved, now are we sons of God, joint heirs with Christ. The same power is in you that is in Jesus. This is called the mantle of the Spirit. With the right concept of this, it is found that there is no decay, no disease, no accident, no death, nothing that can take your life in any way. You can draw this mantle so closely around you that nothing can penetrate it, nothing can touch you. All the destructive agencies or forces ever created by man may be directed at you, yet you will come forth unharmed. If by any chance the outer form should be destroyed, it would immediately return as spiritual in the same form. This is an armor better than any armor plate ever devised by man, and you can use it at all times without money, without price. You can stand forth as you are, the child of the living God. All right, we're going to break it off there because, well, we just ran out of time. Wow. Powerful stuff. I guess that the chat room isn't working, and I'm assuming, I don't even know if I'm still on the air. Let's just see. I don't know. Appears to be. So I guess the chat isn't working. That's okay. Well, if you're listening, it says people are listening. Use this, folks. there is so much information here. And I hope that you're at a place in your development that you can sift out the dogma and bring forth the real gold, the golden nuggets. I mean, what was said today, every one of us should have more than enough. We still got a little ways to go, though, don't we? All right, folks. I don't know why the chat stopped. Who knows? All right. Tune in tonight. I think you're going to enjoy the Steiger perspective. I think you're going to like it. Tomorrow, we have a beautiful artist coming on, Susan, and you're going to love her artwork. I'm going to enjoy talking with her, and I think you will too. So, folks, keep yourself healthy, keep balanced, and meditate on what this was done today. If you need the books, I got them. They're on PDF. And you can take the most wonderful mystical journey. You really can. All right, folks, I'll see you tomorrow. Be good. All right, bye-bye.